Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and in this video we're going to take information from a Google form. We're going to sync that automatically into Excel, and then we're going to send out different emails based upon the response of those forms. And we're going to get started right now, so please join us. Alrighty, let's get started. In this video, basically what I want to do is I want to be able to create a Google form, and I want to take that data that comes from the Google form. It's going to go into a Google Sheet, and from that Google Sheet I want it synced into this application. I then want to automatically send emails, different emails, based on the responses that I get from that form. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how that's done. Let's start out by creating a Google form, and if you're not familiar with Google Forms, I'll go ahead and take you through that. We start out with a Google Drive. Okay, you can sign up for free for Google if you don't have one. And we'll go ahead into My Drive and then click More, and then we'll click a Google Form. Okay, in Google Forms we'll want to click from a template. Okay, from a template, so select that, and we'll just use one of their templates. You might want to create your very own, so we'll go ahead and click Party Invite. Okay, and then that's going to create duplicate their template into our own Google Forms. I won't go into detail about creating or editing a Google form, but it's a very powerful feature, so be sure and take a look at it. It's very simple and straightforward. This form basically has name, whether we're going to be attending or not to the party, and how many people will be attending, if we'll be bringing anything, and then if we have any allergies, or an email address. Okay, so we'll use the form just as is, and let's go ahead and open this form up. This is the editing mode here, so let's go ahead and go into enter mode. But before we do that, I want to go into settings, and I want to make sure that we allow more than one response. For my purposes, I'm going to create multiple responses, but you may want to leave that to limit one, and then we'll go ahead and save that. Okay, now we'll go ahead and preview up here on the right, and then we can go ahead and fill it out. Let's go ahead and fill out this form now, and then the first one we'll say yes, will be there, and say 10 people attending, and let's say we're bringing main, salad, and dessert. Okay, and then allergies, we'll say no, and then we'll go ahead and submit that form. Okay, I want to create one more addition. I want to create one more response, so we'll go ahead and then preview it one more time, and it'll create another tab where we'll create another form, and in this one we will say sorry, we cannot make it. So we have both whether we can attend, yes and no, and then we can leave the others blank, and then we'll just go ahead and put in a email address here for David. Okay, so now we've submitted both forms. And now what I would like to do is I want to take that form data. You see we have two responses here from Randy and David, and I want to convert that into a Google Sheet first. We can do that with this icon right up here on the right, create spreadsheet. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and we want a new spreadsheet, and then we'll click create. We can change the name if we want here. Okay, and what that's going to do is convert over to a Google Sheet where we have the data in a basic spreadsheet. We don't need to change or modify this spreadsheet for our purposes. What I really want to do is I want to get this into Excel as quick as possible. And we can do this. We did go over this in another video called Send Info Anywhere, in which we synced data. So this part we have covered before, but we're going to expand on it this time. So into the File menu of this, and then Publish to the Web. Okay, we want a link. And we want only one sheet, which is the form responses. That's the first sheet here. We do want a web page. We have some content and settings here. We can leave that the same. And it just allows us to automatically republish when changes are made, which is what we want. So that's already selected. Go ahead and click Publish. Click OK on the confirmation, and then that's going to give us a link. We can go ahead and copy that link, Control C, and that's going to copy that link. We can close that out now, and we want to take that link that we've just copied back into our Excel document. And I've created two sheets here. One that's going to have our formatted data nicely here, and one is going to have some unformatted data in which we will sync up automatically with Excel. Okay, and to do that, we'll go ahead and click on the data, and then data from web. Okay, and then click on the yes on that confirmation, and then we're going to paste our link right in here into the address field, then click go. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up our data, and we have two people just as our data is, so we are good with that. Okay, you can click options to take a look at some of the options, but there's nothing you should have to change in here. And then we'll just go ahead and import it. We do have some import options that are going to come up with us. So let's go ahead and look at the properties right now. And this gives you an idea of what your choices are. We can have background refresh, which will refresh the data every so often, or you can set to specify a number of minutes. You can also have the data refresh when opening the file too. For our purposes, we'll just keep it at background refresh and click OK. The rest we can leave the same. Now we wanted this is going to be the upper left corner of where the data is going to go. So we'll specify C3 for our purpose and click OK. What that's going to do is going to import the data to the top row and then skip one row and then put the data in our table here. The headers are automatically brought in. We don't have to worry about formatting this data. And you'll see that on the import process, it automatically hides this information that's not so important. So that does it automatically. So don't be worried when your first column is hidden automatically. All right, that's just important. And so we have our data in here. Now the idea that I want is I want to take this data and I want to bring it into this table. Okay, I just want the data. We already have our format set. Okay, so I want to take this data, and because once the data is in here, I then want to run through it. I want to see if we have sent responses. If we have not, I want to send either this response or this response. Okay, let's go ahead and take that first step and send the data, copy the data using VBA from this sheet over to the responses sheet. All right, let's go ahead and do that now through the VBA model into the Developers tab and Visual Basic or Alt F11. If you do not have the Developers tab available, you can get that available simply by clicking on the File, going into the Options, and clicking on Customize Ribbon, and then clicking Developer here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Now into the developers, I have just two macros. Okay, there's no on-sheet code, and it's just two macros. One is to refresh the data, which is a very small macro, and that's going to bring it from the data table over to the responses. And the other one is to send the information via email based on their response. So we will focus on the first macro, which is going to be the refresh responses. And all we're doing over here is we're specifying a sheet. Sheet 3 is the from data sheet. Okay, so we're going to specify that. And the first thing I want to make sure is that the data that we have is up to date. So this line of code right here, basically active workbook, refresh all, refresh data connection. All that does is make sure that this form data is up to date. And it's the same action as if we press refresh all. Refresh all, it's the same, that line of code is the same action here. Okay, so it's just duplicating that action but doing it automatically. And then what I want to do is once it's refreshed, I want to figure out what the last row is, the last row of data. And we're going to use column D because D always has data. In fact, D is our timestamp. So regardless of the response, that column will contain data. So we're going to use that as to locate our last row of data, and we do that with just one line of code. And dot, the reason we use dot range is because we've already specified sheet 3 above, so we don't have to specify it again. Okay, D999, I just use a very large amount. You can set any number as long as it's a maximum, it's high enough that your records won't be going any higher. We will not have that many people come to our party, so that should be sufficient. End XL up dot row will get us our last row, and in this case that last row is 8. Okay, the next thing is just another line of code. All I want to do is basically I want to take this data only, okay, and copy that data into here. Okay, I do not want to copy the formats. We're not going to use copy and paste. Copy and paste, we have different options and it's a little bit slower, but I can perform this action with one line of code without copy and paste simply by placing the data from one table to the other. And we can do that with just that one line of code. So sheet 2, first you put the destination equals, okay? Sheet 2 D through K and last row plus 4. Now why did we add 4? Okay, I'll show you why. Our first row of data is 11 here, right? But our first row of data is 7 here, right? So this row we must add 4. Theoretically, you could put this on, you could put the first row of data on 11 and then you wouldn't have to add 4, okay? But for our purposes, I wanted to show you a different way. So if our first row of data here is 7 and our first row of data here is 11, we must add 4, okay? So that's the reason we've added 4. Okay, so K is the last column of data, add 4 to the last row, and then equals D7 through K in the last row. Equals, so it's data to data, no formats, no nothing. So equals D7 through J, it should be J8. Okay, let me go ahead and make that adjustment. It should be J. Actually, I think it's fine as it is. J. Okay, we'll go ahead and make that update. All right, we don't need that. And this should be as well, J as well. And I'll show you why. Let's go ahead and take a look under responses. Now, you'll see K, right? K is where we're going to put the responses on. Once the emails are sent, I want the date and time that those emails are sent. So we're copying D through J on both, okay? D through J, okay? So that covers that. That's it. And let's go ahead and run that code right now. We'll click on the responses and back into the VBA. And we'll go ahead and run that code now. And you'll see the date got copied over. Okay, so now it's there and you can see all of our data is right here. Okay, and this means that emails have not been sent, which is good. Okay, so our next macro, what I want to do is I want to run through every line here. And I want to say if there's no date, if there's a date, skip everything. If there's no date, I want to go through every line and I want to say if the response, if it's yes, I'll be there. If the response equals this, then send this subject and send this message. If the response is sorry, I can't make it, right? Then I want you to send this subject and this message, right? And now you'll notice in both the subjects and messages, you will see that I have name here. Okay, you'll see something like name and you'll see here persons, and these are data variables, okay? And the data variables are going to basically replace this information with the actual data in the rows. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. And I have the variables listed here. Name is going to be for the name here. Okay, we will have persons for the number of persons. And we have bring for whatever they're going to bring. So we can replace those. So when the actual email is sent out, it's going to say hi, whatever their name is. We have reserved how many persons. It'll replace it with this data. And then what we will bring, it will replace it with this data. Okay, so I've done that with each one of them. Okay, so how did we go ahead and do that? Let's go ahead and take a look at how we do that through VBA, run through those emails. Back into the VBA module we go, and let's go ahead and click on the send responses macro here, and remember to change the description. You can click on properties, and in the properties you do have the name where you can change the name there. So let's go ahead and go through this macro now, and basically what I have dimensioned out is the Outlook app. This is going to help us launch the Outlook application, and this is going to help us launch the Outlook mail. Okay, so those are both objects. Now the last row, we need to get the last row. We need to know what the last row is here. In this case it's 12. So we've dimensioned that out as long as a whole number, as well as the contact row. Since we need to go through each row, we need to keep track of which row we are on. So we need to define that as well. Those are both long. Okay, and then basically we have our strings. We have a response type, and our response type is basically going to say, are we going to display the emails before sending or not? And what we've done is I've stored that. It's simply a Actually, our response type is going to be, let me show you what that is. Our response type, I don't think we need that too much. I don't think we need that here. All right, no worries with that. Our email, I'll probably just remove that. Our email is going to be the email found in this column right here, which is column J. Okay, our subject is going to be either here in E3 or in I3. Okay, and as well we have the message also in E4 or I4. Person, which is the number of persons, and the reason I've kept this as string, even though it's probably a number, theoretically somebody could write in 10, right? So I've kept that as a string value since we're not going to be using that in any arithmetic or any type of math. Then we don't need that as a number, so we can define that as a string. What they're going to be bringing, and then we have whether they're attending or not. Okay, so we don't need that. We just need that attending. And also send type. Okay, so this is send type. This is the send type. I've defined the send type as whether the emails are going to be displayed or they're just going to be sent automatically. For our purpose, we want them displayed, so I want you to see the emails once they're created. And we've defined that as in here. I've attached this, and we do that through here under the Developers tab, clicking on Design Mode, right-clicking here and going to Properties, and you can see right here under the linked cell here is B5, okay? That's B5. So I've linked this with this cell so that when we change this, let's get out of the design mode. When we change this, it goes to false, okay? So if it's true, we're going to display that email. Okay, so this is an integer, true or false. Okay, and let's go ahead and go into the macro. First, we will define our last row. We're going to use column D again to get our last row, just as we did the other ones. And the send type, again, B5, true or false, right? B5, whether we know it's. And now we're ready to go through. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 11. Okay, we're starting at row 11, right? That's the first row of data. And we're going to go through all the way to the last row. And now, if K and contact row value, what is, well, we know K, let's go ahead and move over. K is the response type, okay? If this is not empty, that means we've sent the email already, okay? So we need to skip that, okay? We need to skip the entire email. If K and contract row value is not empty, then go to the next count. Next count is all the way down here, right above the actual next row. So it skips the entire loop, okay? It skips all of that and it goes all the way to next. So it skips everything. We don't need to send any kind of an email if it's already been sent. Okay. However, if it is empty, we will go through and then define. The name is in column E. Okay. Whether they're attending or not, the details there. Column F. The number of persons they're bringing in G. What do they bring in H? And their email in J. Okay. And then if the attending in E2 equals response 1. So let me go ahead. If attending, okay, basically we're saying if this equals E2. If it's this, then we need to use this subject and this message. Otherwise, use this subject and this message, okay? So that's what we're doing with this code right here, with this code let's go ahead and highlight that. If attending equals E2, then the subject is E3, the message is E4. Otherwise, we're using the subject is I3 or I4, okay? I3, I4, okay? So we've defined it. We want a different subject, okay, and a different message if the response is different. Okay. So now that we've defined the subject and the message, we can move on to actually replacing. Remember, now we need to replace this with their actual name. I need to replace the number of persons with the actual number of persons that are coming. Okay, and of course I need to replace this bring with the actual of what they are bringing. Okay, so we can do that with this line of code. Remember, we're replacing 3 different values. Okay, so that's why we're using replace 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, And we're starting with the subject, okay? That's what was defined either in E3 or I3. And first we're going to replace, if this is found anywhere, we're going to replace it with name. If this person's is found in the text, we're going to replace it with the actual number of persons. And if bring is found anywhere in the text, we're going to replace it with bring. We're going to do the same thing for the message, okay? The same thing. Except this one originates with the message text, okay? This is the starting point. It starts here and then it replaces anything it's found with the actual data. Now we're ready. Now we've got the email, we've got the subject, and we've got the message. So we're taken care of. So now we're ready to create the Outlook application. That's this line of code. And then we need to create a new email. That's this line of code. And then we're saying, okay, with that new email, with Outlook email, the to is set to the email, the subject is the subject, and the body is the message. Great. Now the next comes to send type. Remember we discussed it before. If it's true, if the send type is true, then we need to display the email. Don't send it. Okay. Otherwise, if it's not true, send the email. Don't display it. Okay. That's what this line of code does. The rest just ends it. We're done with that Outlook email. We're going to use 2 lines to clean it up, okay, if there's an error, and then we're going to send Outlook mail to nothing. And the last line is we need to set the fact that we've now sent the email, okay? So we need to send that response. So this is going to equal now. Now is the current date and current time. So K and the contact row equals now. Now is current date and current time. And that is it. That's it for the email. Okay, macro. Let's go ahead and run that macro. And I've assigned this to update the form in which we just ran. And I've assigned this to send responses. So if you right click on any individual shape in the group, and you can take a look at the assign macro, send responses, okay? If you were to right click on the group as a whole, it's not going to show. Even though I've already assigned it, it doesn't show. And even if we assigned it, let's assign it, it's still not going to show. Watch, we right click it again, okay? Assign macro, it doesn't show. And that is because it takes that group that you assigned it and it only assigns the macros to the individual shapes within the group, okay? So when you right click that and you assign macro, you'll see it's been assigned, okay? So remember, when you assign a macro to a group of shapes, it takes it and it assigns the macro to each individual. And this is made up of 2 parts, the icon and the button. So it assigns a macro to both of them. So I've assigned that. We'll go ahead and click that button now. All right, and you can see the 2 emails that are created. This one is the one where we're not attending. And basically it says, thank you for your response. The subject doesn't include any data. Hi, David, this is our only data, right? We are sorry to hear you cannot make the party. We can hope you join us for next, okay? And close that out. And this is the email in which we are attending. So this contains more data. Data here in the subject line, you see how name was replaced with the actual name, okay? Here. And here again, okay? We are so excited to have you attending our party. We have reserved 10, okay? 10. Here's the data value that we got replaced, you guessed. And we understand you will be bringing main, salad, and dessert. And remember, this is bringing. Again, the data got replaced, okay? So that's very easy, okay? And so that's how we get the data in, and now it's how we display it. But here's what I want. I'm quite lazy, and I don't want to open this application and run it every day, you know, and I'm also forgetful. I want this thing to run automatic. I want to sleep, and this thing's going to work. How do we do that? Well, let me show you how we do that. Okay, the first thing is what we can do is when this application opens, I want it to run these 2 macros. I want it to get the data, and then I want it to send the responses automatically when it opens. Okay, we can do that with two very simple lines of code. Under this workbook here, when you click this workbook, you're going to see 2 macros. And I've commented these out because when you get the application, I don't want these to run. But all you do is take out the comments just like I did. And first on workbook open, okay, it's going to refresh responses, okay, and that's going to bring the data back in if there's any new responses from Google Forms. And then the second macro is going to send those responses, okay. I'm going to keep those commented out, but that's how you would do it, okay. And also what I want to do is after the two macros run, I want to close the workbook. I want to save it and close it. And we can do that with this last macro right here, except I've commented it out. When you take that comment out, this macro is going to, this workbook close, it's going to close it. And then do we want it saved? True. Yes, true. If you don't want it saved, you'd put false here. Okay, I'm going to keep that commented out. Okay, so I don't want the workbook to close when you run the macro, when you get this workbook. Okay, we've covered almost everything. Now we know when the workbook opens, it's going to update and then it's going to close. But I'm even so lazy, I don't even want to open it every day. I want my computer to do that automatically. And we can do that automatically, at least on a PC. I believe on a Mac we can do it as well, although I'm not very familiar with that. So I'll let you Mac experts on that. For the PC version, we can go into our control panel, okay? And I've got that up here, right here in the control panel here, okay? And then click on Administrative Tools. Okay, and in Administrative Tools, we have something called a Task Scheduler, okay? And in that Task Scheduler, we can double click that, okay? And what we can do is I want to create a task, and I want to create it daily. So let's go ahead and create a task right here, and we'll call that Party Response Emails, okay? And then what I want to do is I want to create a trigger, and this trigger is going to be based on a time. So we'll go ahead and click New, okay? And how often do I want this to happen? Well, I want it to happen every day, okay, every one day, and I want to do it at 9 o'clock, let's say 9:30 a.m. every day, okay, in the morning. Every day in the morning, I want this to do it. Now, so we're set with the schedule, but now we have to do, what is the action we want? Well, what we want is we want that workbook to be opened, okay? So all we have to do under the Actions tab is click New, okay? And yes, I want to start a program. We have some other options. We can send an email, we can display a message, but we want to start a program. All I need to do is browse for that program and locate it, okay? And it's already here. Here, this is the program, Google Forms Sync. This is the application that I want. We're going to open that and click OK. And now we're done. Okay, now we have scheduled this task. Let's go ahead and here we can see party response email. We can see the triggers, daily 9:30 a.m. every day, and the actions start a program, and it says exactly what program is going to start out. So now every morning this program will start up. The macro will run, it'll close, it'll save it, and then it'll close. It'll send the emails out. That is it. It's very simple. So it's a great way to set things on automatic, and you can use this almost for any purposes. You can have any amounts of data in here, and it's a great way to, you not only get a great automation, but you get personalization. So you can send out really personal emails to people, and they really like it. You could theoretically have this run 5 times a day in a single day as well. So there's really no limit. So I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. Thank you very much, and have a great day.